Have you ever wondered, bro, how am I going to survive NNN this year? Those were my thoughts right before I ended up failing last year. But over the months of trial and error afterwards, I ended up making the perfect survival guide that's allowed me to be on Nofap for 10 months now. And today, I'm going to show you the new routine. Let's get into it. So for rule 1, we're going to have to go back to last year's NNN. This is the darkest point in my life where I'd just seen hope. But you may wonder how I failed. And it was because I got obsessed with NNN, slander, and meme videos. Which at the time, their thumbnails were straight up corn that was just cropped out. And because of this, it just kept on reminding my brain of clapping and corn. And after a battle of 11 days, I failed. So because of this, you're not allowed to watch any NNN videos except Minute Wisdom. And if you see any of this type of video with that type of thumbnail, you have to report it and then remove it. So for rule 2, you may wonder, dude, how am I going to stay motivated through NNN? For me, I actually found motivation in Minute Wisdom's videos. These were very good since they were actually specifically made for NNN. There's a 1 through 30 playlist. And even when I failed, they told me you can get back up. So for rule 2, watch 1 Minute Wisdom video every day. Rule 3 was made once I failed. In that moment, I felt all of my progress slip between my fingers like sand, and I would just be a fat gamer right now if I had just quit. But I remember Minute Wisdom saying, "You're injured, but you're not dead. Get up." And that reminded me of what true failure is, because true failure, it's not taking a little bit longer to get to the goal. True failure is once you relapse and you give up. So for rule 3, right now, make a vow that even if you fail, you will not quit. For rule 4, you might find yourself just constantly thinking about NNN. That's all I did, and I just kept on relapsing and relapsing until I went, screw this, man. I'm gonna try, but this is no longer my priority anymore. And then I started to meditate, read, and cold shower, things to improve my life. And I started to see more days between my relapses. And by December 29th, I have actually hit 30 days. The lesson from this story is that NNN is about energy, and you need a goal to put this energy into. So, rule 4, choose a goal. So rule 5 is a need, because I remember back on day 5, I ended up doing the unthinkable. I started edging. I felt like I was being tortured, like I was fighting back against some unnatural instincts. Is it a surprise that I lost on day 11? So to any of y'all who think that it's okay to watch corn or edge, remember that betrayal never comes from an enemy. For rule 6, you may wonder why it took such a short amount of time for me to hit day 30. Because when you think about it, my last relapse was on the 29th. 29 days for me to lose a major addiction that some people take years to break. And this is just because my last relapse was in NNN. Once December rolled around, I wasn't thinking about it anymore. It wasn't November. So, I wasn't thinking about it. Just don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. The lesson from this is that we need to stop thinking about this entirely, because it's actually causing us to do it. So rule 6, get NNN and all that stuff as far away from your mind as possible. For rule 7, you might be about to relapse and you don't even know it. Because when I started NNN, I changed nothing about my routine. I was in the exact places where I did stuff, and I did it. This might be you. So the lesson from this is that there is a how, a when, and a where to these stuff. Your how may be you're bored on Instagram, you scroll and you see a hot bikini model. Ooh. Your when may be right after school, and your where may be on your bed with your phone. So for rule 7, you need to find your how, when, and where. Alright, let's get into the routine. So every morning I wake up at 6 a.m. so I have 2.5 hours to prep for school. I personally believe that making the bed is one of the most important things for discipline, and it helps a lot with NNN. I always tidy up my room so I can work without distractions. Right after I get out of my room, I chug 2 bottles of water, usually having my creatine. I always work out for at least 30 minutes in the morning. If you're new, I recommend you start off with the basics like push, pull, legs. After I work out, I usually have a very protein-heavy breakfast. At this time, I feed my chickens, but I'd recommend you end up working on your chosen goal for at least 30 minutes in the morning. I always take a cold shower in the morning. I've found this one to be the best one for NNN. If you got acne like me, I recommend you do a facial routine so you don't get ugly. Let's get into the day routine. During the day, I work for at least 4 hours on my YouTube. For you, I'd replace this for 4 hours to work for your goal. I get all of my homework done, so none of my free time can be interrupted, and if I have any, I don't do it, just so I can end up having more free time. Let's get into the night routine, which I believe is the most important one. Alright, so for my night routine, the first thing I do at 7:30 p.m., I put on some blue light canceling glasses. I recommend that if you don't have these, you can end up going onto your devices and put it on night light mode and lower your room's light level. At 7:50 p.m., I do my facial routine and I brush my teeth. You know, gotta look good for the ladies. I tell my family good night and that I love them, and then I go into my room. At 8:05 p.m., I place my exercise mats on the ground and put my bed covers over them. Since you've probably been dabbling in your bed, you should probably put your mattress on the ground to make up a new environment. At 8:10 p.m., I meditate for at least 10 minutes. If you're new to this, I'd recommend you start for 3 minutes on a great app called Medito. At 8:20 p.m., a gratitude journal for at least a page. If you're new to this, I'd recommend you just write 3 to 5 things you're happy for. At 8:40 p.m., I read at least 1 page of a nonfiction book. If you're new, just read any book that you want. Just make the habit. Usually this puts the nail in the coffin for me to sleep. At 8:55 p.m., I put a piece of scotch tape over my mouth and I put on my night mask. I put the scotch tape over because it stops me from mouth breathing and it helps me develop a better jawline. By 9 p.m., I'm usually asleep, since all these habits actually make you really sleepy. Alright, if your NNN goal is to get more friends or to get better social skills, check out my last video where I talked about the one secret I learned that changed my social skills forever.